Welcome to the Mystic Media channel. I'm your host, Rabina Rastaban, aka The Realist Astrologer. And tonight I am doing a video on Monique because she has recently been in the news regarding her going in on Lee Daniels, Tyler Perry, and Oprah. So I'm just going to read a little bit of this article that I found from the LA Times detailing what happened. Monique once again let Lee Daniels have it, and this time added Oprah Winfrey to the mix in profane fashion during a show over the weekend in New York City. I was not blackballed, I was whiteballed. Thank you, Mr. Lee Daniels. Thank you, Mr. Tyler Perry. Thank you, Miss Oprah Winfrey, Monique told the audience at the Apollo Theater on Saturday night, wrapping those comments in a more than generous amount of explicit, disparaging language. The supporting actress Academy Award winner initially alleged she had been treated unfairly by Hollywood. She didn't think she got the role she deserved after taking home the Oscar. In a 2015 interview in which she said, Precious director Daniels told her she'd been blackballed over her alleged behavior during the award season when the 2009 movie was up for consideration. I got a phone call from Lee Daniels maybe 6 or 7 months ago, the comic actress told The Hollywood Reporter. And he said to me, Monique, you've been blackballed. And I said, I've been blackballed? Why have I been blackballed? She continued. And he said, because you didn't play the game. And I said, well, what game is that? And he gave me no response. Almost Christmas, a late 2016 foray into the big screen comedy, is one of only 5 post-Precious acting credits on Monique's IMDb page. Winfrey and Perry were executive producers on Precious, and Winfrey got a role in The Butler that Monique has said she was offered and then denied. Daniels told CNN in 2015 that Monique, whom he called brilliant, was hurt by unreasonable demands she made during the Precious campaign. I told her, you have to thank the producers of the film. You have to thank the studios, Daniels said, and I think she didn't understand that. And I said, people aren't going to respond well if you don't. At that time, he and Monique were gracious about each other. Saturday night, however, gracious is not the first word that comes to mind. So Monique has really been vocal ever since the Precious movie came out about how Lee Daniels has blackballed her or how she's been blackballed in general. So I wanted to take a look at her chart and see if she's actually, telling the truth, if these claims are legitimate, or if she's the cause of her own blackballing. Now, Monique was born on December 11, 1967, makes her a Sagittarius. And if you know anything about Sagittarius, Sagittarius is very blunt, very open, very outspoken. Sagittarius is all about telling the truth. So Sagittarius, if they feel something is true to them or true in their heart, they're going to speak on it, regardless of the consequences. So that's one of her main problems. Now, her being born on December 11th, the 11, that deals with conflict. 11 is a rather challenging number. It's a number of being in conflict or where you're always at odds, either with yourself or with others. So she's already starting out the gate with challenges in terms of interpersonal relationships, but also herself as well, because 11 can also deal with internal conflict. Now, with 11, that's Cancer energy because it breaks down to 2, and 2 is Cancer energy, also deals with the moon. So with that 11, she expects loyalty. She also takes things too personal, and she gets overly emotional. So she was expecting Lee Daniels to have her back regardless of how she behaved throughout it all. Also, 11s are very instinctual, and for that reason, sometimes they have a hard time being logical and level-headed. And a lot of times 11 is very insecure deep down inside, but 11 tends to give off a very hard persona or a tough persona. They tend to be hard on the surface. Just think about Little Kim. Little Kim is an 11, and her first album was entitled Hardcore, but as we all know that she's a very insecure person, and on the inside, she's really soft as jello. Now, Monique's life path is 10, breaks down to 1. So 10s often use others for as a vehicle to their success. So 10 is prone to latch on to other success or ride another person's gravy train, which is what she was doing with Lee Daniels. And she expected to continue to ride that gravy train despite her behavior and attitude. Now, when the train derails or when she's kicked off, she really suffers. That's the essence of 10. And she has a very hard time maintaining independence due to a need to be in a certain social circle and to be affiliated with a group. So, of course, in Hollywood, you need to be affiliated. So if you go against what these bigwigs in Hollywood want, or if you start talking trash, you will get blackballed. That's just the way it goes. So Lee Daniels, when he said you were not playing the game, he was being truthful. Whether you like the guy or not. I personally don't care for the guy, but he was being truthful in that respect. Now, also, her Sun and Mercury are in Sagittarius, and that is what makes her a good comedian. Sagittarius is basically the sign of the comedian. Now, her Mercury is at the 9th degree of Sagittarius. And again, like I said, Sagittarius is all about speaking the truth. Since her Mercury is at the 9th degree, that means that she really lacks a filter and she's very impulsive in her speech. And she has the type of speech that will incite riots. That's like that fire starters type of speech with Mercury at the 9th degree of Sagittarius. Very blunt, and she has a hard time keeping her mouth shut. Now, Mercury is conjoined to the fixed star Antares, and this fixed star is rather destructive. It can make one prone to get into verbal conflicts. It can deal with being very forward, very direct, but also very impulsive, very headstrong, and a lot of times a person can be self-destructive as well. Now, also, Antares in conjunction to her Mercury makes her come across as that very tough persona, which she is known to have. And also, with Antares being conjoined to Mercury, that could deal with her pointing fingers at friends or associates and basically accusing them of wrongdoing. So that fixed star is rather concerning because her mouth can get her into a lot of trouble. And that fixed star can also deal with violence and accidents. And when conjoined to Mercury, that could deal with like a car accident or auto accident. And everybody knows that when it comes to killing people, faking a car accident or doing it via car accident is one of the most common ways to do it. So basically what I'm saying is, at the very worst, Monique's mouth could actually get her killed with Mercury in conjunction to Antares. And at the very least, it could just cause her to be blackballed, which is exactly what happened, because that Mercury and Sagittarius conjoined to the fixed star Antares is basically her sowing seeds of discord and creating beef. Now, also, her Mercury is in square to Jupiter in Virgo, and Virgo is a sign where you are submissive, or it's a very submissive sign. It's a sign of service, or where you're willing to serve. So when Mercury is Sagittarius and square to her Jupiter in Virgo, she has a hard time serving or being in a subservient position, or at least humbling herself. Now, what's very telling is her South Node is in Libra. And you know what I always say about the South Node? That South Node tells a lot about the type of challenges the person is working with, the type of tendencies that they bring over from past lives that they need to reduce in this current lifetime. So with her South Node in Libra, she's coming to this life being very relationship oriented, needing to rely on others to get ahead. And also with that South Node in Libra, it's very easy to create enemies because Libra deals with relationships of all kinds, including open enemies. So that's exactly what happened with the circle of influence in Hollywood. Now her North Node is in Aries. As I explained, the North Node and the South Node, they deal with opposing signs. So with her South Node in Libra, her North Node is in Aries. And that deals with her needing to be more self-determined in this lifetime, more independent, less dependent upon others for success. And also she is to be more daring, courageous, and be ready to stand up for herself. And also to be combative when the situation calls for it. But she needs to choose her battles wisely. So with this situation, it seems like she's not really choosing her battles wisely. She's kind of being impulsive with it. And like I said, I already explained where the impulsivity comes from. And also her moon is in Aries, and it's right next to the North Node, so that reinforces her need to be more independent in this lifetime and also to be her own boss, which it seems like she's trying to do, but she still tried to rely on Lee Daniels' power and influence to continue to get those roles in Hollywood. Now, with that North Node in Aries, there will be times where she has to fight for certain causes or fight for her rights. So the whole lesson with North Node and Aries is learning how to engage in conflict resolution, or to have conflict resolution skills, because Aries is a sign of conflict. However, if you don't put the resolution behind that conflict, you're going to constantly be butting heads with people and constantly getting into interpersonal conflict. Now, her North Node is in Aries, like I said, and it's making a quincunx to her Neptune in Scorpio. So Neptune, that's basically the film industry, that's basically Hollywood. So with that quincunx, that's basically her being blackballed and locked out of Hollywood. It's also caused her to be kind of humiliated. And also, it's the sacrifice that she had to make for standing up for herself. Now, her Venus is in Scorpio, and it's forming a quincunx to Saturn in Aries. And also, she has Mars in Aquarius, and that's in square to her Venus in Scorpio. So going back to Venus in Scorpio, quincunx Saturn in Aries, that makes it very hard for her to get along with people in general. That makes it very easy for her to have falling outs with people, to have separations in terms of partnerships. And also, her Mars is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is a very rebellious sign. It's a very truth-telling sign. It's a sign that doesn't like to compromise. And her Mars in Aquarius is in square to her Venus in Scorpio. So whenever you see Mars square Venus in a person's chart, you know that they have issues with being cooperative, being compromising, and just having that having harmonious relationships, or having that balance in relationships. So with her Mars in Aquarius square Venus in Scorpio, that's her refusing to play by the rules, just like Lee Daniels said. She doesn't want to play the game. She's very rebellious, and she's not easy to work with. And like I said, she could be very uncompromising at times when it comes to what she wants. So with that Mars in Aquarius, she don't care who you are. She don't care, how big you are up on the totem pole. She's not going to respect you if she feels like you don't deserve that respect. And that is exactly why she was blackballed. It really didn't have nothing to do with her personally. It had to do with her running her mouth and not playing the game and not respecting those bigwigs. So what I always find to be very intriguing with natal charts is when you look at the South Node and you identify the challenges inherent in that South Node, all the other aspects of the chart will start to make sense because they all fall back to that South Node, North Node axis. So with her South Node in Libra, it's no surprise that she has these other challenging relationship aspects like Mars square Venus, Venus in quincunx to Saturn, because in this lifetime, she's not supposed to depend on others to make it in life. She's supposed to be more self-sufficient, more self-determined, and more independent. Now, she also has, so this also spills over into her marriage or her relationship. And if my memory serves me correctly, her husband demanded that they be in an open relationship. So that speaks to those challenging aspects in terms of her relationship profile, but also she has Sun square Pluto. Sun square Pluto could deal with attracting a husband that can't be faithful or who demands an open marriage. Also, Sun square Pluto is very concerning in terms of her career because that deals with basically being overpowered, being manipulated, being subjugated, and being exploited. And she was exploited with that movie Precious because I believe she was only paid $50,000 and I don't think she received any royalties after that. However, she signed on to that, so she needs to take responsibility for her own decision making. But that Sun square Pluto makes it hard. Oftentimes people with Sun square Pluto, they have a hard time taking personal accountability and they're always pointing a finger at other people. And at the very worst, Sun square Pluto can portend a murder because she's not, respecting certain people, or she's being very antagonistic, because that Sun square Pluto could deal with people taking revenge or getting revenge upon you. So she needs to really be careful, and she needs to start to have more of a filter and start to really watch what she says, because she cannot just like end up ruining her career if she chooses to stay in Hollywood. This might even cost her life, because we know how people in Hollywood get down. They're basically like the mafia. If you don't play the game, and if you want to run your mouth and talk trash and all that stuff, they will deal with you. And at the very worst, it can lead to death. So her whole thing is, oh, I want to do things my way, but it's like, no, boo-boo, you signed up for this whole Hollywood lifestyle, so you gotta play the game. If you don't want to play the game, sorry to say, you're not going to be a winner. So that's my take on Monique. Let me know what you think in the comments. I was going to add something else, but I think I pretty much said it all. But yeah, make the long story short, from what I see in her chart, she brought this on herself. As much as I don't like Lee Daniels, he is telling the truth, and he is right in this respect, because he knows the industry. He's been in the industry for quite a while now. So him, of anybody, would be able to steer her right. But with that Mars in Aquarius, squaring her Venus in Scorpio, that also makes it very hard for her to take advice. So well-intentioned advice at that. So that's my take on Monique. Hopefully she can get it together and learn how to keep her lip zipped a little bit more. But peace, many blessings. And if you would like a reading, just go to my website, rabina.com. Click order a reading at the top. Peace and many blessings.